Hi everybody. Ooh, quite a gauntlet, yeah? Any doctors in here? I was just curious if you could overdose on thought leadership or not, but I think you all are gonna find out in the next few days. My name is Theo Romeo. I'm the CMO of Auddia. We are a very small tech company based in Boulder, Colorado. We have a core piece of technology that can classify audio in real time. Basically what that means is it can distinguish between music or talk, and then when it comes to talk, based on context, it can tell whether that talk is, for instance, a DJ or a host or an advertisement. About 3 years ago, we put this piece of technology into an app called Fader, F-A-I-D-R. And primarily Fader is a radio streaming app. It did not have podcasts when we originally launched. About a year into this, we added podcasts to the app. And I know a lot of talks like this at conferences, brands will get up in front of you and they will give you a thinly veiled case study on how something really went well. And I'm gonna be a breath of fresh air, everybody, because results have been mixed. Huh? How do you like that? You're welcome. So we've been working at this for about 2 years now, talking to folks in the podcast industry, creators, reps, salespeople, and really, you know, what we were hoping to do with podcasts is create more economically favorable terms for creators and give users a little bit more control. The original conceit here was we went out to folks in the industry and we said, we think that there is a untapped or unaddressed group of your audience. Now, I know that the podcast audience, the way that I'm segmenting here, I know it's more nuanced, but they gave me 10 minutes, okay? So just bear with me. I'm gonna be binary here for a second, which is right now, you can address, I'm talking to podcasters, you can, monetize your super fans. These are subscribers to individual shows. They will access exclusive content off app. They will buy merch, all those sorts of things. It's great. They're probably, I imagine, the single percentage of your overall audience. And then there's sort of everyone else. I'm calling them passive fans. I do not mean this pejoratively. I just mean everyone else. They may listen to every episode or some episodes from time to time, but they are listening on the apps and they're being monetized by ads. And that's great for really big, successful podcasts. And for the long tail folks, it might not be so great, so you really got to go get those super fans. The way that we saw it is that, there's probably a large group in the middle here, and we'll call those active fans, right? So these are people who are engaged in the show. Maybe they do want some exclusive content. Maybe they do want an ad-free experience, but they're unwilling to subscribe to every show they listen to. Like for instance, if I subscribe to every show that I listen to, I would have to pay like $40 or $50 a month, and I can't do that. My budget can't accommodate that because I have a daughter and she needs like Disney Plus, and she needs Paramount, and she needs Max, and it's just like, I can't do it. So neither can they. So what can we give to these folks? Well, our original idea was, hey, why don't we take a ad-supported episode, we will turn it into an ad-free episode without any effort from the podcaster, and then we will charge a very moderate subscription, and we will share the lion's share of that revenue with the podcasters. Basically a pay-to-play approach here. And so the user gets to subscribe, and they get access to a lot of shows, not just one, and the podcaster gets paid for every single play or download on their episode. Now, that was the pitch, and because this is not a case study of success, let me show you where the barriers were. Here's the, come on now. All right, Barriers, awesome. So, podcasters, we talked to them. They were pretty interested, but they were pretty wary, right? So many folks said that they were worried about angering their advertising partners, especially the bigger ones. And the long tail folks, they really saw it as, hey, listen, like, I want my listenership expanded. And so the fact that we could monetize their existing listeners at a slightly better rate per player download didn't really move the needle for them, right? Because it kind of feels like extra work on their behalf because they have to promote that on our app. And I get it, right? So there's a little bit of a chicken and egg problem here, right? Because we can pay the podcasters, but we don't have the user base to grow their listenership because remember, we're a radio app. And so primarily all of our users are listening to the radio, so we have to continue to build that podcast listenership. And then the final headwind is that we got some pretty unfavorable coverage in the trades. We've been accused of trying to monetize content without permission. We've never made a cent off podcasts. And stripping ads without consent. If you downloaded Fader, and I hope you do, F-A-I-D-R, you'll see that we don't strip ads out of podcasts. You just listen to podcasts as is. I want to give a special shout out to Pod News because they're a particularly big fan of ours. And we like to say back home that they are the most reliable coverage post-press release. So anytime we issue a press release, they're a fast follow. In fact, when we said that we were going to speak at South by Southwest, we got 2 different posts from them. You all need to find your own Pod News fans. So before I go here, I want to, establish one thing, that we want better and more favorable conditions for podcasters, but we're a relatively small app. We're relatively new on the block, right? And so what can podcasters do in this case? Well, maybe they can demand more from the apps that leverage their content to bring users to those platforms. And apps themselves, my hope is that they will take a more active role in working with and accommodating and compensating the podcast creators that they're so dependent on. A few ideas that we have talked to folks in the podcast community about that hopefully, can maybe live on in another place. Number one could be something like direct payment to creators. So can we treat a episode play like a song play? There's an entire infrastructure set up out there to compensate artists, and can we treat a podcast in a similar way? Renting exclusive content instead of owning it. So go out to a group of podcasters and say, hey, what do you need to make in the next year of your subscriber base? And then you just write them a check for that year's worth of exclusive content, but you don't own it. You put it on your app and you make it accessible to everyone. You just gave that podcaster a whole bunch of breathing room, and you have a little bit of exclusive content on your app, but you don't own it. You have not created a walled garden, and that podcaster gets to, figure out if that works for them at the end of that term. And then the final thing are things like micropayments and a la carte. So can apps make it very, very easy for folks who maybe don't want to subscribe for a month worth of exclusive access, but they do want one exclusive episode, like an extended interview or a very timely thing, or like something that a person can very easily pay like 50 cents to $1 to listen to that one thing. The app makes that easy for the user, and it manages distributing that payment to podcasters, and everyone's happy. So that's really the end of my spiel here. I thank you all for your time, and if you have any questions or you want to talk about this stuff further, don't hesitate to bother me. I'm this guy right here. Thank you.